Hey, I really appreciate everybody being here. I can tell you that sitting up here is not what I do and not what I will do. Anybody who knows me or heard me speak before, know what I've done for the last 12 years, know what I've done for my whole life. I don't like rectangle tables because when you start talking about rectangle tables, there's always a head of the table. Yeah. And when we start talking about everybody having a voice, we need a round table. We need a table where everybody at the table has a voice that's equal and every voice is heard. And as Skylar mentioned, the interesting thing is that we realize that government and the church doesn't have to be separated the way people are running right now. Yes, the church should not tell government what to do, but it doesn't mean the morals and the beliefs of the church aren't something that we can't bring back to this community. Amen. And I mean the community all the way around Metro Louisville. And we need to do that in a way that the people believe in what the morals are in the future. We need to do it very softly, but very firmly, and teach our youth something that we've learned in the past and we don't want them to repeat in the future. And as Reverend Elliott has lived the life of what has happened with Martin Luther King, I grew up under Reverend Coleman. The gentleman, he was very dear to my heart. I grew up from this small all the way up, and I know that knew Reverend Coleman, Thurman Coleman, out in J-Town. And you knew when he said fine, 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 and he shook your hand, you knew whether he was happy with you or he was not telling you that you're not doing the right thing. You could tell that big burly handshake what you were doing raising as a kid. I always respected that guy. In fact, and I don't say this in a bragging, but there's a point in my life that marks time. Wow. And when Reverend Coleman passed away, well, before he passed away, his wife passed away. And the kids thought actually that Rev had passed away before she did. So they said, Rev, we just wanted to make sure what's going on because we thought you had passed before Mom. And who do you want to handle the funeral and how do you want the funeral to be? And this is where I got so humbled because the Reverend said, I want 2 people to speak at the funeral, and I was one of them. That humbled me to no end because I knew he knew me from when I was a little kid, and he knew he chastised me and helped me grow to be a better person. So when we start talking about the different areas of town and whatever church they are, we need to make sure that it's represented all the way around this town, and all churches are represented at the table of Metro, because moving Metro forward, we have to do that. As a mayor, we start talking, and I was telling David there that I'll sit down. You can't see me, but I guess I got to stand up. So when I say something I don't want you to hear, I'm going to sit down. When I say it, I want you to hear. I really appreciate everybody being here. And everybody hearing the conversation, but the conversation isn't all about me, guys. I am just one of the people at the table. When I met David, they asked if they could do the United Black Men's Unity Rally out in J-Town. And the first Baptist called and said, and I sat down with him, I said, sure. And I said, why don't you have it in City Hall steps? And David came, and Tim Finley came, my chief came, we all spoke, we all united, and we worked together. And that's the way this community has to go forward. We have to have a point now that we start moving forward as a community, and we start moving to a point where everybody just talks about it and we do something. I am so tired of people keep talking and not anybody doing anything in Metro that I talk the conversation that I hear from you all that Metro takes $100, they take 90 for themselves, and give 10 to the nonprofits and the churches to move forward. That's got to change. That's got to be where Metro takes $10 to do the administration and $90 each people. That's a big difference. And the other thing is I understand that what they're doing is every time that a nonprofit or church tries to do something, Metro tries to copy it. Why? Yeah. You all do it a lot better. So rather than try to mimic what you do, we should get out of the way and let you do what you need to do all around this community. So I understand as a mayor for 12 years what that means. I understand helping. I mean, First Baptist out there, I'm going to meet with them all the time. And it's not just because I'm running for mayor. I've been doing this while our hardware store was across the street from First Baptist for years. We're the oldest family-owned business in town, and we understand what family is, and family is everybody. I mean, we talk about situations as mayor that you never want to have to get into. We had the Kroger shooting. And when you had the Kroger shooting, when the assassination of the uncle and the auntie that got killed, that was horrendous. And that was a situation as a mayor you never want to have to go through, but it shouldn't define the community. And the community rejoiced together saying, this will not define us. But when I was getting ready to walk out and talk to all the press, I mean, within a half hour, there were 16 cameras and 32 press. The FBI agent walked up to me and said, we found out that the gentleman tried to get in First Baptist Church. Do you want us to report it? I said, absolutely. Let's be transparent on this, what's happening, make sure everybody understands the seriousness of the situation, and we unify together to make sure this is something as a community we will not accept any part of it. So as a mayor that's been doing this for 12 years, I don't know any better than, I don't understand this Democrat and Republican guys. I as a mayor am a nonpartisan, literally nonpartisan. I've always been elected as a nonpartisan person. Across the state, I represented all the cities across the state. And out of 419 cities, 410 are nonpartisan. So when somebody needed help during the tornado, when Dawson Springs got hit at 137, you all do this as churches too. And this is not something new to you. At 137, Dawson Springs got hurt. At 6:32, I was on the phone with the mayor, Chris, and saying, what do you need? And that's what you all do. We understand that as a community. That's how we work together. Now, I don't want to just do that during a situation that a horrendous situation. We should be doing that all the time.
All the time.
So that when Chris said I need cell service, I called AT&T. I have the connections, and we got cell service to him. But 3 cell towers down there within 5 hours. When another city called and said we can't move the demolished our town to out on the farm to start rebuilding because they won't give us a permit in Frankfurt. I called Frankfurt, talked to Rocky up there, and the governor was a Democrat, and we got the permit for him within an hour and a half. So the working relationship, I don't understand when it's an R or a D, because when you have a problem and you call the mayor's office, you don't care what party I represent. You care that I care about your problem. And that's where I come from. I come from the hardware business, and anybody that says hardware store, you always get this warm and fuzzy feeling. It's a lot of work, guys. I mean, you have to know 50,000 different items and how each one of them fits. But when you come in my hardware store, whether it's a 5-cent nut or a $30,000 Bobcat, you have a problem, and you want it resolved. You want it resolved right then. You don't want to do the typical government thing, say, let's study it and talk about it and come back next week. Let's get it resolved. So that's what we brought to J-Town, and that's what we need to do downtown. And downtown, so many times, I hear this from the community. And I mean, not only the West End community, it's Dixie Highway, it's the East End, that whenever they call downtown, I get this, not my job, or I got put on a recorder. We got to change the service level of government should be the service level of government. And they have to understand they're here to help and here to be for you all and make the city move forward. I had, as a mayor, one of my council members after one of our meetings one time, and we were down and getting ready to get in the car, and he goes, you know, we are the most powerful people in this city. I said, no, we're not. We're the servants of this community. And anybody who knows me, the one thing I don't do is don't put my name on anything or don't take credit for anything, because you come a point in your life where it's not the money you make, but it's what you leave behind. And I'm preaching to the ministers of saying it's what you leave behind, because it's the touches that you do, the people you leave, and if we don't share what we have and the circumstances we went through, shame on us. If we don't take this time right now in this situation, what we've gone through, and make a difference, shame on us. So I have to say, as the next mayor, I would represent you. I will enjoy working with you. And I mean, that's going to be a working relationship around a round table that we all take what needs to be done in this community. So I want to hear from you all. I want to hear the questions. I want to hear what you all think the answers are. Because the worst thing anybody does is go to somebody else's community or somebody else's job and tell them this is what you need to do. We need to listen to the community to say, what do you all need, and then provide it. We don't want to take to where we go, we're going to study it. We don't want to take to where we're going to think about it. And I'll tell you another two things that I firmly believe in is 80% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So if we agree on moving forward on something and we disagree on 2 or 3 little pieces, let's go ahead and do what we agree on, because the community can't wait. The community can't wait till utopia when everything, that's called heaven. And we're not going to have heaven here. We're going to have to make it look like heaven as fast as we can, but we have to help the people that need help right now. And then there's one other thing that my employees realize both at the hardware store and City Hall that we follow. That there is no such thing as problems. There is just solutions that have not been found. So when we start talking, let's talk about solutions. We all understand where we live and what we came through, and we all have lived different situations. And I know that you all have lived through a lot more than I ever have. But let's talk about where we're going to take this in the future, and let's do it. Because our time is very limited. Our time on earth, our time is short scope. But let's set the standards, let's set how we're going to have this community lead in the future. Let's do what needs to be done now, but let's set the mark for what needs to be done for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So they will say that the group that met on today is the group that will set the future of Metro Louisville. And I'll close with this. John Cole passed away. And somebody was asking me about his funeral arrangements. They are 4 to 8 tomorrow and 11 o'clock on Saturday at Baptist Church on South Hirschburn. Anybody know the name?
Vernon Avenue.
Very good. So everybody knows where to go. John led our community in a good way, and we had a lot of good meetings with him before he passed, and it's a shame he's gone. I'm going to stop and let questions, because that's what you all should understand, and I think it's questions of discussion. Let me know where you want to go and how we want to lead the future, because many of you I've talked to, we've had discussions, but I think it's time we unify the group and start working together as a group to lead the city forward, not as individuals. Anybody have a question? David? Oh, I thought you were just standing up.
Yeah, I know I said that there were some people that had wrote in some questions, and I was going to ask and then open it up. Let's open it up to you. You're the ones that's here. And then if I can get to these questions, I'll ask these questions. So please feel free to engage, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Any questions?
Well, since I'm up here,
All right.
Bishop is
I
not
might as well start, and I did the same question that I asked your opponent when he opened up. The first question I believe all of us as pastors, ministers, community need to know, what direction will you lead us as far as our law enforcement? We have had a history disparity with our police, especially in the last 2 years. And we definitely need to know what directions and how do you deal with your police? How do you choose who's going to be your chief? If you have already made those decisions, and then what do you think that we could have done during the time of the protests that we as mayor and clergy could have done? And if something like that come up again, you may be able to give us some idea of how that we as together can handle that situation. So my concern is with your relationship with the community as far as the police and the law is concerned.
He didn't ask one question, did he? He went through the whole thing, and I love the Bishop Lynch. I mean, he puts it right out on the table. But seriously, and I appreciate it. And laughter is the key to our future, because we have to work together and have a good time together. But when you start asking about policing, there's several things, and I do this right now. And I can tell you, Rick Sanders will be coming with me, so anybody wants to check his record. I don't believe my opponent that says he's a Matt Devin boy. I mean, Rick was DEA in command in Miami, Chicago, Indianapolis. He was third in command of DEA in Washington, D.C. He didn't even meet the governor until after a Democrat appointed him, and the board of, I think, 18 picked him to be the person that was the KSP, and then he has come back with me. He is like us. He wants to bring the community back to where one thing we do is we do what's called community policing. We really understand what that means. That means when you get to know your police officer that's walking the beat, they get to know your kids, so that in the future, if a kid is misbehaving, it's different than actually doing something that's illegal. And if a parent that needs help, they know to call John or Mary, the police officer. So in the future of policing, we have to have police officers to where you know them. And that means not taking what they've done since merger, going from 10 divisions down to 6, and I understand they want to go down to 8, now they want to go down to 6. We need to go back up to 10 because we need to have the divisions out there where the officers are in the community that they serve. They need to know the community, and it'd actually be beneficial if the officers actually lived in the community, but I'm not gonna tell somebody where to live, but there is a perk if you do live in the neighborhood, and that's a benefit to the neighbors to get to know the officer and get to know the neighbor. But the other thing is we have to unify the forces of all of us, and Rick's done this 25 years ago in Chicago. We have to go and get rid of the cartel and the gang leaders, guys. I mean, there's people that are just bad people, and we have to make sure that we're saying that we need to get rid of the head of the snake because our kids have to have a chance. So when we do that, we have to make sure that we're unified in purpose, that the people that are misleading our kids are these people need to go to jail, and we need to quit arresting people that shouldn't be in jail. The people that are addicted and the people that have behavior problems. Let's quit putting those people in jail and start helping those people. And what we do right now, and I'll go a little bit, and if anybody needs help, come to J-Town. I mean, we're open. We've actually, I was just talking to a major that has left me and gone into the field and gone to another direction. We're opening another angel program out in Georgetown this next week. But the angel program is you can come into my police department, or we will come to you and have your drugs and paraphernalia and just say, I need help. I'm at a point in life, I need help. And so rather than arrest the person that is homeless on the street, we help the person that's homeless on the street to make sure, many times that we have this, where somebody should be detoxed and then they're healed. No, if you're addicted, it's a lifetime sentence, guys. Right. And I think we're all understanding that. That's something that, in our police department, our angel department, we actually stay with you. We still know the person that we helped 6 years ago. Yeah. We didn't, a lot of things I started didn't start just because I want to run for mayor. I didn't know I was going to run for mayor for just a few months ago. I've been campaigning for 18 months, the longest time I ever had. We did the angel program several years ago, and it was because we saw the addiction problem needed to be done. And we had a HERP, Urban Emergency Response Team, and we had people around the round table, the people that were sober, going through detox. We had the Healing Place, VOA, we had all the different organizations, we had police, we had doctors, we had nurses, we had the mayor. And in the conversation I told them is, tell me what works. Because so many times we keep talking about how we got here. Tell me how we get to the next step. And from that we started the Angel Program. We have over 300 locations locally and nationwide to help you. And some of them are free, some of them we have scholarships for, we have transportation, and we have, if you have the medical insurance, we have that. But the other part of policing is not only that, we have the victim's advocate that helps the person that all of a sudden their son got killed. They need the help. I mean, my wife got held up at a bank with a gun to her head. I mean, that's sort of, I don't say that, by the way, I haven't said that anyplace else. I'm not out here trying to get sympathy for what she went through. I just, she may not even want that out there, so we're on film on that. But anyway, there are situations, when you come out of a situation of a shooting, the victims need somebody to talk to. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we do, the Victims Advocate, which is a key right now, and it just happened to hit the Courier Journal, so it's got to be true. It's 6 months, 8 months ago, I was pushing for the violent crime of domestic violence. It is rising so high, so fast that we started the Victims Advocate several years ago, and they would come in after the police triage the situation, because we have shootings. That's the most violent time of anybody's life because you don't know what's going to go. They take the spouse out and help them and the kids get through the court system and get healed, because that's not a normal situation. Yes?
Why would you want to be mayor of Louisville, Kentucky? You know, you've been blessed, got a nice community, seems like everything is going good in J-Town, but why would you pick Louisville, Kentucky? What's number 19 in the country? Crime is going down just a little bit, but why? You know, people have reasons. You know, and I just would like to hear your reason. Why would you like to be the mayor of this city? Is it a stepping stone, or is it a trophy, or what?
No, and I said in the beginning, my life is at a point is what you leave behind. I can't do J-Town anymore. J-Town is doing well, both financially and morally. They're doing real good right now, because when I took over J-Town, they had a financial problem, and they had a pride and moral problem. We've changed that to where people are proud of it now. I see Louisville, it is a a city in crisis that needs somebody that can do this. And I have the love and the passion. This is what I really enjoy doing. So why do, if you really enjoy doing it, if you really enjoy ministering, why do you want to retire from it? Look at Reverend Elliott. I mean, so I really enjoy what I do. I know I can help Louisville. So it's a passion. It's not a stepping stone. It's simply a point in my life that I really think I can make a difference. I really know I can make a difference because the working relationship that I have with everybody, it is something that I can bring together. And it's just, it's again, I'm speaking to the choir here, guys. Yeah. You all are the same way. I've never seen a minister say, I'm not going to be a minister anymore. And I don't mean that as a politician. I mean that as helping people. So when I left the hardware store, helping people in that way, the next step was to help the community. And so the vision I have is helping Louisville to be a town to where my grandkids want to grow up. A town that they will raise their kids in. But more importantly, when I leave being the mayor of Louisville, that you will tell other friends from around the United States, this is the best place to live. And that's all around Louisville. Because I have no angst about one part of Louisville or the other. I want to raise all of Louisville. I want to make sure that, and let me go off cue just a minute. That's 5 years ago, or probably 7 years ago now. The one thing I'd like to eliminate in this community, our community is Metro, I want to eliminate the compass. Because we so many times say the West End, the East End, the South End, and I tell you again, I'm preaching to the choir, the West End has 9 great communities. And we shouldn't, and the first thing I did is go after the press. I said, quit saying the murders in the West End, because it makes all the West End look bad. Say where they are or what neighborhood they are, and let's keep it to the point of what's happening good and what's happening bad, and start reporting good things. I had a meeting with several press last week, and I said, I'm gonna need you guys. I'm gonna need you guys, I'm gonna need them to make sure this community reports a lot of the good things and the bad things. We have a lot of good things going on. And that way, if we have the people from all parts of the community to say, this is our community, then all of a sudden Metro grows, and all of Metro grows. So the people that may be out in PRP want to help the people in Portland. The people in Portland want to help the people in Newburgh. So that we become a community where everybody's family. To the point of J-Town, we have it on our trucks, where everyone is family. Because family fights, family feuds, but we're always family at the end of the day. And that's the way I firmly believe.
I do have a question. One that someone sent in, I think is important. How do you distinguish yourself from the politics and policies which have devastated our communities, such as redlining, drug lockups, pulling African Americans over for basically no reason? How do you distinguish yourself from those things that West Louisvillians complain about, and that has been going on for some time?
Well, I can tell you that when Rick Sanders comes with it, he does not believe in that. He does not believe in pulling over the black young male just because it's turn signal. He thinks that's a wrong way of policing. The policing should be is after the people that are misguiding our youth. So that as far as policing, and I can go into the details, or we can have him here and answer. I'm not going to say what he's going to be, but I'm just going to tell you he's going to be in some capacity. But let me tell you this. I just learned that they're kind of cooking the books. The crime hasn't gone down. They just changed the check mark to say it's a misdemeanor rather than a felony on describing how the crime is. So the books are not true. Crime hasn't gone down. It's up to us to change. But when we start talking about redlining, I realize it's still going on. It shouldn't be accepted. And one of the things I'd like to see is a community bank down here. And the community bank should not be a bank just because it's owned by blacks. It should be a bank that's owned by the community. So and it's not a matter of somebody in California owning it that happens to be black. It has to be a community bank where the depositors own the bank. So that way you have to follow the laws and all that type of stuff. But that way the decision on where the money goes, how it's loaned, and everything else is in the community, representing the community. The other thing is about 2 years ago during the pandemic, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 2020, whatever that year was. I was involved with the Bingham Fellows in what we did as a group to connect and correct the digital divide. Because down in different parts of the town, unfortunately, if you were working at Humana and they told you to go home and you lived in parts of the West End that don't have the connectivity, you lost your job. Or if somebody put a job out there on the digital life, and you could connect to it, you never knew the job was there. But also the connectivity of the health in the future. All the health is going to be digitally done, computer done. We found out that through what we did is we had to form a coalition. And the coalition included both the hospitals, the schools, Metro, but Metro doesn't own it. They help facilitate it, but they don't, the independent people do it. So that we are a part of it, but it is not Metro. Because what we realized, and we researched it around the United States, that a coalition of helping digital connectivity could be a passion of one elected official, but not the next. But the connectivity always stays there. And the other thing we found out is amazing that people sometimes don't realize is that they come out and they go, well, they got plans, AT&T or Spectrum's got a plan for $10 that you can do. Many people don't have the $10. And so we have to have it to where all people can have the connectivity, have the hardware, and have the training, and have the maintenance. Because I don't care, any of us get a brand new phone, we don't even know how to turn it on unless we ask my grandson who's 6 years old how to do it. So it's a matter of the connectivity all the way around. Yeah, David.
I just want to follow a question to that.
Sure.
When it comes to policing, what we have seen has been the departmental heads may say one thing, but the officers carry out whatever they want to do. So my question would be, I hear what you're saying, and it sounds good, but what does the FOP say? Because it seems like the FOP is not always in line with the administration. It seems like the officers aren't always in line with their departmental heads, and that it's almost as if the body is controlling the head. So is the FOP in line with this community policing? Is the FOP in line with not profiling? And it's one thing to say it from you, but what is the sentiments of the FOP when it comes to the type of policing that you're talking about?
Well, I just had a meeting last week with the FOP, and to that topic, they want it to be the community and the police working together. They said that, and they want that to be. The mayor should not tell the police what laws to enforce and not enforce. That's horrible. But the police should be working with the community, and they said that. Now, as a mayor, myself, I was on the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council that decertified police officers. I decertified, I don't know, do y'all remember the Explorer program?
Yes.
Okay, because there's some crowd I go into, they don't remember it, and that's horrible. And I am the one that actually took away those cops' certifications. So I did it for several years on the board, and we took away certifications. I went and changed law in Frankfurt to make sure, because if they take away certifications, the law said this much, we increased it to this much as a given. And so I understand what it's like. And we have to reinvent what LMPD looks like. We have to, and they understand what that means. And they're all in. Now the advantage is they're all in with me, but not with my opponent. And they're all in not because they think they can control me, but they believe that when I come downtown and I say something, that it needs to be done because I've lived the life and know that what we're doing is the right way to go. So there's a difference. Yeah.
Of course, one of the questions I have, in terms of one of the things I know as it relates to your decision making and the ability to make moves and changes within the city is going to be within your cabinet. And one of the most critical things is having representation on your cabinet or in your cabinet that represents the community, all aspects of the community. My question is, what thought have you given as it relates to, in particular, when we think about the city, we think about West Louisville, when we think about Newburgh, when we think about the entire city, who is only going to serve on your cabinet that's going to be representative and is then already in connection and contact with the community?
Well, I can't tell you the person. I can tell you that how we're going to pick them. One thing is, we'll make, Rick, and there may be a couple people that, my executive assistant or something like that help. But as far as cabinet level and everything, it's a matter of having a group like this that we sit around and talk about it. Can't have all of you all be the director, but I can have you all help pick the director of different divisions. Now, you may not be the group that helps pick a division of economic development. You may pick the group of the the neighborhoods, safe and healthy neighborhoods. So there's different groups, according to what your qualifications are and where you live and represent, how we look at the future. I've always done that. I always believe the experts and the people in the community should be the ones helping me pick the community. So, and if there's people downtown that have good intentions, but they're not allowed to perform. And there's people downtown that should leave, but there's also people downtown that are doing a fantastic job. So I don't think it's a matter, and you know, when I took over the job in J-Town, there were several people I realized that need to go right away. But I also realized there were certain people that the mayor, every time they came up with a good idea, they'd say, give it to him, give it to him. They never let him perform. So when we start talking about how we're going to do departments, it would be a matter of the people that are experts in that field and people that are going to be affected by the field to help pick the person. Now, again,
I'm sorry, you may have misunderstood my question.
Yeah.
Not the departments, but I'm saying your cabinet. So that would be
If you
whether
say-
you change the chiefs or deputy mayors, whatever you call them, but the people that report directly to you, that all of the agencies will be reporting to them, various ones.
I would think okay, I'm not talking about the person that runs the department. I guess I'm talking about the people that actually are the directors. Are we talking about?
No, like for instance, you know.
Wait, in our city, the directors are the ones that answer to me.
Right. Well,
Okay.
in Metro.
So we're just talking.
Yeah. It's
We're talking semantics. It's the people that report directly to me I'm talking about.
Right. Well, the way that it is structured, no doubt you're going to probably change some of this, but the way that it's done in the past in terms of having deputy mayors or chiefs that would report directly to the mayor, and those directors of various agencies report to the deputy mayor or they report to the chiefs, whoever that is. It's not a direct line to you, the directors, because you would have 26 directors, you know, reporting to you. So you have another level in terms of those directors report to them. I don't know how you want to structure your government, but in terms of being able to, where the decisions are made and how things are communicated, it is not at the director level, it is at the level in terms of your deputy mayor, chiefs, and the mayor themselves, in terms of how a lot of decisions are made daily.
Okay. Again, the people that would be around me helping me make the decision. Well, and I'm gonna be honest with you, my deputy mayor is gonna be somebody I can work with. I mean, somebody I know, and that's gonna be true of anybody. I can't necessarily go out and do a forum to see who the best deputy mayor is. I have to have somebody that I can trust and that will do the job. If that person doesn't, they'll be replaced. But that person would be picked through my own personal game, my own personal. But now when you start talking about people in the cabinet, and again, we probably will change what's going on, because what's going on is too bureaucratic. You're talking a lot of layers. Now, granted, bigger city, you have to have more layers coming up, but I'd have to look at what cabinet levels you're talking about. Let's say somebody that represents the nonprofits would be at my level, to where all the nonprofits would have one person to call. I don't want the nonprofit groups to have to go through 10 people to get to me. So they should have one person to get to, and then they're me, or they call right to me, either way. So that person that you all have as a nonprofit representing you would be the person that would be either myself or that person would be represented. The person from the nonprofits, it's not, the churches would be another group. So there would be groups that that would be part of the cabinet, I guess, what you're saying, that would be representing all the different groups around the community. And then you start dividing it up from there.
Yeah, what's the population of J-Town?
J-Town is about 30,000 during the day, or night, and 68,000 during the day. It's the 8th largest city in the state during the daytime.
And what is the number of law enforcement?
57.
57, okay.
So, and that's 68,000 more than my opponent. So, some people go, well, you just ran a small city. Well, he's ran a hotel. So not to pick on him, but it's a fact that in running a city, I not only ran a city, but I was president of all the cities, and that included local across the state during the pandemic. Actually bringing the federal funds in, make sure the cities understood it, and also make sure they understood what happens after the pandemic, how do we do economic development and everything else. Hope I kind of answered it, because
That's an important question there, James, because you have to be very careful on who you got that know what's going on in the community, that is related to the mayor. The mayor trusts that person. You've been there, and I remember when, many years ago when they built some of them, sometimes they get in there and get worse than the mayor. But when you got the right person in there that knows what's going on in the community, can advise the mayor of where we may ought to put a lot of our attention and encourage the Metro Council to try to come together and fund that. It's important to have somebody who got the community and the mayor at heart. Not trying to be the mayor, but working with the mayor.
Right.
You've been there, you know.
Right.
That's very important, that the community know who you are.
Right.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me turn back, because you've been there, you've worked there. What do you feel the best way is to pick the different heads around the different representatives around the mayor?
I mean, you know, those positions are really, a lot of people don't really understand them and know what the level of responsibility, you know, what it really is. If you were to take, in terms of just what my agencies that I had 6 government agencies, it was about $123 million budget, about 924 employees in terms that I would be responsible for. I had 6 directors that reported to me, and then I reported to the mayor. But what was really critical was my relationship with the community, and there's 3 things that I think is critical. A person who has a deep commitment and ties with the community and understands how the community works, has deep ties politically, that understands how the system works in terms of how to be able to navigate the political system, because you can make all the decisions you want to. If it doesn't get across the street and get voted on, it's not going to happen. So you have to have folks that know how to navigate that. But also you have to have business leaders, people that understand business and that has, you know, a strong sense in terms of a strong business acumen, that understands and have ran large departments and large agencies and know how to lead large organizations. You can't have someone in those kinds of roles that are not familiar with how systems work, how to change those systems, a lot of different things. And so I think that there's a lot of unique qualities that you look for within individuals. I know at least one of those 3, if they have all of them, it would be great. But you at least need one of them to be able to place, and then also have other counters on your team, on your cabinet, that can compensate in terms of what that person may not have. But the key thing, I think, for any administration is to have someone that the community trusts and know that they can speak and connect and navigate with the community and the administration. Because without that, there is a huge gap of your understanding in terms of what's happening, as well as what's happening in the community. So there has to be a 2-way communication that's constantly happening. And that happens with individuals who are already connected, deeply connected within the community. And so I think that those are some key attributes that I would look for. And then after that, that's the beginning. It would be their success in terms of in terms of vetting them, you know, what type of success have they had in those different arenas that they may have operated in.
So you basically said that we need somebody from the community. I don't mean community as in Portland or something like that, but community as in Metro, rather than outside the community right now.
Right.
Because somebody has to understand what we went through and where we're going.
Right.
And somebody that actually has the ability and to do what needs to be done and can do it on a large scale.
Right.
And that's why I say we put the people that are, that person we should talk to the community, professionals that are part of it. It could be the building community understands what's best to run part of the permitting and design, or another community may realize what community safe neighborhoods mean. So they're the ones that kind of tell us what that person looks like, and then the persons that apply, I mean, somebody has to apply, not just
Right.
gravel. We analyze them to the person that will fit the position best. And I do that in J-Town. I mean, that's what we call them directors. I mean, you can do it. You just have one more layer that we move the director up to. But they have to fit. The director at senior center has to be the right person. The one that does parks has to be the right person.
Right.
Public works and the whole time. And all the people that are put in have a love and a passion for their job and have the ability to do what they need to do. Right. Yeah. So we agree on that. Any other questions? Yes.
Mayor, if you become mayor of Louisville, you're going to have a large group of people whose lineage is that of slavery,
Right.
descendants of American slaves.
Right.
And there have been without going into any kind of historical obstacles and efforts that have hindered that group from wealth accumulation, made it so hard for them. There have been efforts seem like intended for that group, one of which was called Minority Opportunity Business Department. And what I have found out now that I'm 80 years old, that every program that focuses on minorities do not necessarily provide the kind of assistance that descendants of American slaves would benefit from. Some of the programs, many of us are not even equipped, qualified, capable of knowing how to participate in it. What I have heard that some cities have done, they have set up offices, cabinet, department level, that work directly with those who can establish lineage as a descendant of American slaves. I'm wondering if you were made, how much effort would you put forth to try to address the special needs? Because there are no other group in this city, in this country, that have endured what descendants of American slaves have. And like those cities that are designating those programs directly that is going to affect descendants of American slaves, they're finding that the image of the community rises. And speaking about that, that's one big problem we have here in Parkland, Shawnee, mostly down here, the image. And much of it is associated with economic lack. Here we are, twice as many people. I think you said there's 30,000 over there. We got 60 to 70,000 people down here. Right. And we don't even have overnight accommodations. Businesses that can provide overnight accommodations. People coming in to visit with us and various things down here. And the Office of Economic Development downtown, there's one little girl, I know her, she's been working for 2-3 years on a hotel. And there's another man, I think his name is Mr. Holland, he's working on a hotel. But they told her to come see me, because I've been talking about something ain't the same as doing something. And so I sent her back to the River League, back to the official table. Didn't she come to the So this is an issue. This descendants of American slave situation is an issue. And until it is addressed, I think that finally we are going to be faced with continuing lagging and dragging that could be eliminated.
So that they.
How much effort would you put forth for cooperative? You mentioned something about let the community own.
Yeah.
Now I joined the group. I think it was initiated from right here. The Louisville, well at least we're gonna have a meeting here. Mm-hmm. Louisville Grocery Co-op. Yeah. Now that allows little folks to have, as that little ownership. And sure enough, ownership changes image. change his interest, change his attitude. I know I left my coat, and I'm not gonna hold up all the time, but I told this guy to watch my coat. I left and came back, somebody got my coat. But he had his coat on the other side. His coat was still there. I said, where's my coat? I don't know. I said, whose coat? He said, that's mine. You know, so he had a black coat now, but I'll stop. But I would like to know how much interest and effort would you put forth if you were fortunate to become the mayor to assist directly with establishing office of descendants of American slaves.
Let me start with the last part of your conversation and work up to that part there. The one thing you brought up is economic development in the West End.
Yes, sir.
And the one thing that I see so far, you all tell me if it's different. I'm a retailer, so I understand storefronts. I fought that fight, and not everybody wants to fight that fight. And unfortunately, that's great many times, and people love it, whether it's a grocery, whether it's not the grocery store, whether it's the small store or the restaurant or something like that. But that's just one part. But the other part of it is to actually bring businesses down here that are paying a hefty salary, that the people downtown, and I'm telling y'all, the average salary down here is $20,000 to $25,000. We need to raise that up to where they can afford more restaurants, better houses, better everything. So the economic development has to be something that's not only just the storefronts, but also businesses that are coming down here, or have the people down here have the ability to get the job someplace else and come back here and live because it's where they want to live. Now, when we start talking about the descendants of slaves, I think it's a matter of, it's not always just setting up a committee, it's actually doing something.
Yes, sir.
And that some of the things is, again, let's not wait till we say, okay, this is a total package. Let's start working on some of the things that we were kind of talking about, whether it's job assistance, business assistance, where they have a special interest rate on loans, or if it's a matter of education, to where they have a special, like a GI Bill, is what we kind of talked about. Let's look and see if we can start moving that direction and move it to where we can do it here, and also do it on a federal level. Because just because you live in Louisville shouldn't designate that Louisville's the only one. We need to work on a national basis to where that is where, if you're going to do like a GI Bill, we need to make it more national driven, not just local driven. So yes, it doesn't need a department. I don't want a department, and I'm not saying no. I just don't want a department just because we have a department. I want to have something done to move this needle forward, and let's do some of the things, whether it's the loans or whether it's a GI Bill or some of the other things we talked about, just start doing what needs to be done that we haven't done in the past. That's a short answer for your long description, I think, but it kind of gets there. Yeah, good vision.
But what's your plan on being able to keep the communication between the clergy and your office? One of the things that happened, the protest went on as long as it did because there was not a relationship. Although we tried to get a relationship with the mayor, Pastor Ark and myself, for months, and there was not a system set up where that the clergy had a door, direct door into the mayor's office. What do you see or foresee that you would like to see as far as the relationship between the mayor's office and the clergy of this community?
Well, one thing, I'm a Christian, and I firmly believe that we need to get the clergy involved in the government to help the government be better. But the other part is in my nature. This is what I do. I don't try to rule as a monarch. I try to be a facilitator of working with the people in the community, and the clergy is a key thing. So I can't tell you that exactly this is what we're going to do. I do this. This is what, yesterday I called Carl Brazeley out at First Baptist, and we talked about something. Carl and I we're working with this 7 p.m. group to make sure that the contracts and everything else is going according to where the minorities have the ability to, or not the ability, they actually are involved in the Ford plant and the other items coming forward, and whether J-Town is moving forward to make sure we're doing the right thing. So I can tell you that this is what I do. People come to my office all the time. I don't really understand why downtown is the way they are. It's not only you guys, don't feel personal. I mean, no matter what group I talk to, they say the same thing. And the kicker is, their employees say the same thing. So I don't know what the disconnect is. I've always been very accessible. To me, this is natural. This is natural. As city, when natural thing is not me at the front, you all at the back, in the tables, and I'm sitting up here. It's a matter of us sitting around the table saying, "Hey, we got a problem. We need to solve this." The one thing I'm going to ask you to do when I become mayor is say, "This is what we need to move forward with and discuss it," because the one thing is that we all know there's problems, but I need solutions. If we're going to do something, we have to have solutions, and we have to have possibly adjustment. Let's do this right now and start working toward this. I have a limited time in my life, and as I said, and during that time frame, I don't want to be putting it off for the next generation. Yeah.
Bill, let me ask, I'm going to follow up to Pastor Mr. James's question in a way. Most of the people that we serve and that we deal with are people who make their decisions for life from a mentality of surviving.
Sure.
They're not worried about next week, next month. They're talking about, can I get some bread for tomorrow? Am I going to have water on tonight or gas tonight? So their whole life-making decision is from a mentality of surviving. Most of the people that occupy a lot of the offices, especially in the mayor's office, are people who come from a background of decision-making or culture of thriving, which in turns, for me, helps me to see and understand that they don't have a clue how to help deal with or even be as empathetic as they need to be towards that group that makes all of their decisions from a mode of survival. How then do you feel that you can help turn that around and then have the understanding? Because you can put all the people in the cabinet on whatever levels you want, but if they don't have an understanding of what people are dealing with just to survive, then you're at odds, because they're looking at it from a thriving that the people ought to do X, Y, and Z, when the people are looking at it from surviving and they're doing A, B, and C. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the easy answer is to put somebody in the position that actually understands. But the practical thing is that the person that actually understands is the person that's living the life, and that may not be the right person to put in trying to run a city. There's going to be reasonable. But we have to have somebody that's here. I mean, that understands here, right here, talking to you all on how to move forward. You all have done this. You all have touched the people. And I say this in two ways. We have to help the people survive today, but we have to help the people flourish in tomorrow. So I don't think it's an or, I think it's an and. So the person that we hire, the person that runs the department, has to be somebody that understands to know to come to you, not you personally, but you, and understand what it takes to survive and to thrive, both. That sounds like a political answer, but that's, I can't tell you who the exact person would be for each situation. But I know you're tired of somebody that came from an ivory tower, that goes down and gets a job, and they live in a cubicle. My people don't live in cubicles. They are in a community, and so they weren't necessarily the person that's was homeless and then took the job, but they may be somebody that understands what it is to be homeless, not somebody that's read in a book. That's actually been out. Anybody else? Yes.
Mayor, we have a growing problem in our city with detention, both the adult and juvenile levels. Juvenile detention situation, aware that you have mentioned that you have a relationship with legislators that are working to try and bring control to detention facility back to Louisville. approaches to the detention needs in the city.
Okay, to go to the jail first, and the one thing we have in our jail is the old system of housing people. One thing, as I said, we put the wrong people in jail, but the other part is that the housing of people in jail is corridor effect. And with a corridor effect, it's like this. You can't, if your station is all the way down here, you can't tell what's going on. The way that it should be refurbished to do is kind of like if you're in a hospital, how they have the nurses stations and all the rooms are around it so they can tell what's going on. We also need to have more people there that can help the people that are in jail. The third thing is on jail is that when the people that happen to go in because they are intoxicated, I mean not intoxicated with bourbon or something like that, but actually addicted. So many times they're in there for 24, 48 hours. We don't have the system set up where the nonprofits can help that person when they get out. And we have to have that set up, the system to hand them off. Not that they have to go, you can't demand somebody have to go, but the system's there for the people to move where they could be better in the future. Now, the other part of that was, I forgot what the other part was, I'm sorry. Juvenile justice system. Okay, working with Julie and Jason, one's Senate, one's House, to bring the juvenile justice system back here and having Frankfurt pay for it, to bring it back. But what the sticky point right now is one thing is get the rest of the state to do it, and I can do that. That's what I do. I know we're afraid around the state. The other thing is I want to make that look different than what it is or what it was. Because there has to be consequences if a kid does something wrong, but there also has to be the other side that helps the kid show them that there's a better way. We may have to take them out of the situation they're in, show them the system to where we can help them in the future to not go back to where they were. So that is what's in, and we have to figure out where to put it. So one thing is the funding, which we're trying to work on. Where does that come? Second thing is Frankfurt agreed to do it. And then the third thing is I can't do it all the way right now because I'm not the mayor saying this is the building we're going to house it in. But I want to have the people on board in Frankfurt to say, okay, when you're mayor of Louisville, we're going to do this and move it forward, and where are we going to put it and how are we going to do it? So we can't have that 17 bed out of the range where the men and women are sleeping in the same place, and it just doesn't work. I mean, and we can't have where if you're a juvenile, we're going to take you 3 hours away to someplace else. We have to have it here, and we have to have something that can help our kids later.
We have time for about a couple more questions.
Well, I'm hoping I'm answering your questions. I'm trying not to not give you an answer. And the second thing is I do this. I don't mean this. I mean, I am a mayor, and we have to react to situations all the time. Hopefully we do them right. And if we don't, we fess up and keep on moving. The one thing politicians have a hard time, I'll get you to say, one thing politicians have a hard time is the reason why they don't make decisions, because they're so fearful of the population is going to chastise them. If that's the case, you never make any decision. It'd be the same thing as a minister afraid somebody is when you read a Bible passage that they're not going to believe that passage. Well, you keep on trying to save the person and bring them in. So the same thing with us. We have to look beyond our 4 years. We have to look and say, let's do something. And I have to have you all with me on the something because it's going to be a unified effort. Yes?
Yes, sir. I heard you say that one of your goals was to lift up all the neighborhoods.
Right.
I think that sounds better if you were talking about neighborhoods, let's say in Daytown, but in Louisville, you've got disparities between the neighborhoods.
Right.
So if all the neighborhoods are going to be lifted, that sounds good, but down deeper, something says to me that we'll still be on the bottom. So
now,
the question is, what will you do to help equalize the quality of life in our community as it compares to other neighborhoods? It seems to me that we need a little more attention, we need a little more help, a little more resources, a little more programming than maybe some of these more prosperous neighborhoods.
I totally. My first answer is yes, I agree with that. It's not a matter of being equal, it's a matter of being equitable. And I know I'm talking to y'all, I don't have to tell you what the difference is. But and it's a matter of, J-Town doesn't need the help right now. We've done a great job, I'm doing a great job. But West End does, so that the nickel needs to go down here, not out there, or the dollar, or the $10 and everything. So, and a matter of, when we say raising all ships, it's a matter of all ships are raising like this, not like this. Because if I give this $100 and I give this $100, you're not gonna get the same result. The other thing is, if we don't spend the money down here, it will deteriorate faster, farther than what it would someplace else. So the funds have to be moved, and we have to do it. I mean, I hear so many times of so many promises that they have a press conference and saying, we're gonna do this, and it never gets done. So it's just not my nature to do that. So the West End has the more dilapidated houses, but that doesn't mean PRP doesn't. But the funds have to be, the government has to be more efficient to let the funds go so that people can do what needs to be done in the neighborhoods they are. And neighborhoods down here are going to need a lot more help to move the city forward as a city than Prospect. And they realize that. They realize that.
To piggyback on this conversation, one of the things that people are sensitive about here is that there's money flowing in the West End, but it's not reaching the people that need it.
That's right.
We get displaced. It's going to other companies that are coming in, buying up properties. And so the question is not so much putting money in the West End or even in Newburgh. Is it going to help the people that are there? How is it going to trickle down to us instead of displacing us, removing us, and then other people make the West End flourish, but we rent in our living spaces? And that may be a complicated question, but that's the question we're concerned with.
Well, the one thing I'm more on, we have to have apartments, but they should be temporary rather than permanent. We should look for home ownership. And in the home ownership, I don't know if y'all heard me say, is the one thing, the ownership, the second thing is the next part. Because somebody that is having a hard time making it, and all of a sudden the water heater goes out, they may get a payday loan. We have more payday loan people in this community than we do McDonald's.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's going the wrong direction. But then they lose their house. So we got to think in the future where that person should be provided with an insurance policy, and I use that in a general sense, that if water heater goes out, it's paid for, it's installed. But that insurance policy has to be somebody local and somebody who cares, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's somebody in the community providing it, not somebody that's in New York City that's trying to figure out a way to get out of it. So now the other thing would be that when we start doing the affordable housing rehab, it should be local. The incentives should be local. One thing is home ownership. Now there's Frank Harshaw is not, I don't know if you know Frank. He is doing several houses. It's interesting. He tries to do, and he's doing it because he's retired and he's trying to do, he's not making money on it. He does the first house, the second house, and the third house. So that somebody that wants to live in Shawnee the rest of their life, because that's where the family is, they can go from one to the next, and he helps develop that. But it's local. It's not somebody out of town that's trying to get the apartment complex that gets the incentive for 5 years and all of a sudden the incentive isn't there anymore, so they raise the rents on everybody. It's somebody local that has ownership. The other part of that is code. We actually, Skylar and I, and the code enforcement officer, we went after one of our big apartments that was owned from out of town, and we just fined the heck out of them until they got their attention and told them we were going to shut them down as far as them personally. We were going to go after them personally. We weren't going to shut down the apartments because people have to live, but rather than them being protected by the corporation, we were going to go after them personally during that situation. And we got their attention. And they came in and started replacing things and fixing things. And then we also started a thing called a super nuisance ordinance, to where the hotel, the extended stay hotels was one of them. And we went in, and if you had so many drug dealers and everything else, we went after them. And the super nuisance ordinance would have gone right after the personnel, and they turned that around. So we have, nobody else, I don't know why Louisville doesn't have super nuisance, but that was actually Skylar's idea. But we look at ways to do that differently that is representative of the people here. And I would look at incentives to where the people locally own it. Now, the other part of that is all of a sudden the houses start going up. It's a catch-22 when you talk about the houses going up. You want to get generational wealth, but the person that's living there, you don't want them to, in a house next to it, you don't want to have to kick them out. When you start to get a certain age, you get a discount on your taxes. There's no reason we can't do the same thing in a district. That district would be discounted to where they don't have to pay the tax, they don't have to ask for a refund of the taxes, then they got to come up with the money. But as a senior citizen, you get a homestead tax. There's no reason we can't set up something in a given area, whatever that drawing is, so the people in that area don't have the increase in taxes that will come with it. And there's a lot of, yes, yeah, okay.
Whenever I hear talk about home ownership, to me it's discussed without a connection to jobs. It takes money to pay for a home.
True.
You gotta have a job. Okay. And when you're not able to get the job in the neighborhood, then you have extra stresses because you got to go 10, 15 miles somewhere on a very limited income. The question I really want to get to on this comment, we've got hundreds of businesses in the West End with all of their employees getting in trucks and driving to Meade County and wherever, and taking the money they make out there and leaving the neighborhoods bereft of resources. And not only that, but the businesses don't invest in their neighborhoods. They take it to their country clubs or wherever they spend their money, but it doesn't benefit the neighborhoods. They come in and get the tax incentives, but they hire outsiders, and they flood out of here at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. You can see them in trucks.
Yeah.
Okay? And people stand on the street can't get it out.
So why, let me ask you the question behind that. Why aren't they hiring the people that are close to their job?
Don't ask me because I don't want to answer that.
Is it because of what you're thinking, that they don't want to hire the people in the neighborhood because of who the people are?
That's probably a significant factor.
So I don't know the true answer to that. I know that we would do it the other.
It's a lot like what you said with your cabinet. You're gonna hire somebody that you know and you feel comfortable with.
That's right.
They're hiring people that they know, that looks like them,
That's right.
and that they're comfortable with. But when it comes to making money in our communities, there needs to be some allegiance back to the people that live there.
That's right.
Instead of just going along to get along and hiring people that you know, that you like, and you feel comfortable with. It's the same thing, just on a different level.
So the way to, and I'm doing this real quick without actually studying all the different angles that it could be. We need to sit down and talk about what different ways could do it. It could be a tax incentive for them to hire somebody.
That's right.
Within the area that they're in. We can't do it down to the person, but we could probably do it down to the area. Kind of like what we did on our jobs program. You know, we did a tax incentive to bring your job to J-Town type of thing. The other part of that is if the one thing I did start being part of KIP, the transportation board, the old ticket to ride. You know, you could get a van and get 8 to 10 of your friends, and the original you had to go 20 miles, and it was made for people that wanted to go to a Toyota plant. They would give them a van, and all they had to pay for is gas and insurance. I've set it up now through them that locally you can do that. So if somebody in this part of town wants to come work in J-Town, they can get 8 or 10 of their friends. They don't have to work the same place. And the van is free. In fact, the person who drives the van is totally free, but the people pay the gas and the insurance to go. That's just one answer, that they don't have to ride a park bus for 2 hours. So I mean, that's moving the people out of here to a job, but getting the people in here, we would have to do some kind of tax incentive to do it, because I can't force them the other way. Yes, ma'am.
And let this be the last question, Rep.
The thing that interests, all of the issues that you've put on the table since we've been here are all pertinent. But one of the things that bears on my mind is the appearance of the community. And that may be very basic and non-essential in the minds of some people. But I can take my street, my neighborhood, the alley behind my block. It's neglected because it is never cleaned up. And I think that has to do with all of West Louisville. The general appearance of the community. So then, if you were elected mayor, would you address this, and do you have, since you are already an experienced mayor, do you have a plan now that you can come into office and address this, take care of this? How am I going to get the neighborhood cleaned up, the streets, the alleys? There are properties that are neglected. Sometimes they're not owned. They have been, people have left. There are weeds taller than I am. Between maybe two nice properties, but between here, weeds and trees, etc., are higher than I am tall. You need to address that. You need to have a plan to have, well, let me be a lady and say that the community is beautified.
And it starts in the mayor's office. And
well, then what would be your plan?
Well, and it starts in the mayor, and we had the same problem in J-Town when I first talked about the high weeds and the alleys. We had a pride problem. And it came down to me, and then it came to the public works people. Had to really care about what they're doing, and in J-Town they care. And I'm not saying public works people don't, but it's a reworking of what public works is, where we actually have the crews that come out in the areas of, you have a crew that actually, this is their area. This is their area. So the reason why I say pride is, if you're a public works group and this is your area of town, say Portland, it may not just be Portland, it may be a geographic streets. This is your area to keep it looking nice, then you're responsible for keeping it nice. If I have a group that says, I want you to keep all of Metro nice, they don't get pride in ownership. But if they take pride in ownership, if they come to the area, then that public works group is responsible for that area, and that's how you clean it up.
Okay, so then
now you first have to do it with a massive cleanup. You have to send more than just a small crew, because it's been neglected for years. I'm speaking to the choir. So there has to be a massive cleanup, and we have the American Rescue money right now to do that. So we need to come in and actually clean up the areas of town that have been forgotten, and also cut the grass. Now, the abandoned properties, that's another story altogether. We have to make sure that we can get them through the system faster than what we're doing right now. Like I said, they're getting through 30 a year all around. We need to at least do 300, so at least we take them through the system, we take the liens on them, foreclose on them, and let somebody in the neighborhood or in local take that house and refurbish it before it goes down any farther. Because as a person that had a hardware store, the longer you let it sit, the worse it's going to get. And so when we set them for 30 years, that doesn't mean they improve with age. That means they deteriorate with age. So we have to have somebody that understands that this is their territory and this is what they should do.
Thank you all for being here. I'm so glad that you all have showed up. We will disseminate this information as soon as we get it all downloaded and have a place to put it. It's so much of a feed, we'll have to find a place online to be able to pull it and give you the link so that you can look at it as well. We have one other candidate that is inquiring to meet with us. She's running for board. Mayoral Brewster. Once we get that set up, we'll probably close out having any other politicians come in that are running. That will be our last one, and hopefully we'll get her in maybe before the first week of November at the very soon. But thank you very much. If you have offering, please don't forget to leave something in the pan. I want to turn this over to Bishop for final words. Bishop, would you mind dismissing us?
Okay, thank you, and thank you so much for your candid and your response. Let me announce tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we are asking the brethren and sisters to meet with us at the New Zion Church to address the violence around the church and the carjacking and the disrespect for our community, especially with the carjacking. We hope to have a representative from my chief's office. I'm trying to reach out to the FBI, who has a special task force on carjacking. And also, we hope that we can together send a message that what happened to Pastor Arkin, it is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow at 3 at the New Zion Church, we ask you, and spread the word to other brethren, ministers in the community. And if you can't, the sister pastor told me, said she can't come, but she's gonna make sure that you're a representative. So maybe we can all do the same. So thank you.
You want to take us out?
Yes, okay. Father God in heaven, we thank you for your loving kindness, your tender mercy, and thank you for what our hearts have felt, what our eyes have seen, what our ears have heard. We pray, oh God, that we will leave this place walking in unity and walking in love, walking in faith. We pray our blessings upon our candidate and upon those, oh God, that are seeking to lead our city. We pray, God, that you will bless us and continue to help us to be the light as we walk the streets of Louisville. Men may see you in us. Hear our prayer, accept our thanks. And now may the grace of God, the sweet communion of the Holy Spirit, rest and abide henceforth, now and forevermore. Amen. Amen.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for hosting.